Hey guys, this is J Sharp Tutorials, and today we're going to be talking about the Arsenal Merc class guide. And I already went over some of the components of this guide in my other videos. I'll put links in the description, or you can just go to the list, but I will go over everything again briefly. First up is our discipline. Nothing really big from 3.0, so I will just go over it very briefly. Basically, what all of this is doing is saying that we should cast our priming shot and tracer missile before our most damaging abilities. And the only new ability is Tracer Lock increases the critical chance of the next rail shot or rapid scan by 3%. So basically what it's doing is getting one of our biggest attacks and our biggest heal more power, which is great. And I did change my discipline significantly. I'm still keeping afterburners because I like the root on Rocket Punch. It's great for kiting away melee, and also the jet boost again is just to push away melee, so that's really helpful in PvP. This is great for that extra bit of damage reduction. You're going to be keeping it up with all of your tracer missiles, and when you're panic healing with your rapid scan, you'll be able to maintain it as well. And then the new one I definitely agree with. The adhesive supplements, the tracer missile slows by 40%, which is pretty significant. And so this will allow us to keep melee at a decent range and also be able to chase down people a little bit easier. The thing I gave up was the bore sights, which I think in modern PvP, or at least in 4.0, AoE is not as big of an impact as it used to be. The improved healing and improved group healing has been able just to make this fluff damage versus anything else. The increased damage on our rail shot has made that more important, so I just don't think sweeping blasters are as important as they used to be. You have an argument for your extra endurance and extra healing, but I don't think that's outweighs anything else. Your stun breaker is great, and jet boost is okay, but again, I think having a farther jet boost is more important because or else they'll just jump right back in, or they'll be able to run up to you again. I wouldn't recommend this. We're getting stunned enough, and that's by itself drains some heat because we're not attacking. I don't think this is necessary, and again, the extra alacrity I don't think is as significant. Going quickly on to Masterful, I think this is great. There's so many slows. Every class has a slow now. That be able to getting past that is great for getting objectives or chasing people down. The defensives for supercharged gas is great because usually I pop this at the beginning of the fight, and that's when everyone else is popping their just everything, their stims, their extra crits that come from their 6-piece set bonuses. So having the extra defense chance is great to survive the initial burst of the fight. I'm really underwhelmed by everything else in the tier. You have an argument for the healing received because if you pop your shield and then hit your big heals and maybe your med pack, you can get a pretty big burst of healing, but I don't think that's as important, and that's a playstyle thing for me. Energy shield, not really that great. And pushback, where so many of our abilities are instant that I don't think it's as helpful. None of these cast that much heat, and cure costs a global cooldown, so even though it's helpful against dot classes, it's just not as great. Then moving on to the Masterful, I took the discipline point away from here into here, and I'll explain why. Again, as I was saying previously, AoE is not as prevalent as it used to be. They nerfed a bunch of AoE so you don't have the source casting lightning. And that being said, with our rocket out, we're farther away from the action and have less chance of getting stunned. And so I find the times when I die are usually when I'm still away from the fighting if I can time it right. I'm not usually dying in the middle of a stun. So instead, we take this, which has our reduced cooldown on energy shields and energy readout, which absorbs damage. So I think for my playstyle, at least in the 4.0, I think this is a smarter tooltip, though this is doable. Power overrides as always have been there because as a DPS increased, but I think in PvP this is more important. Of course, Thrill of the Hunt's mandatory for all of your blazing bolts. You're casting those often, and that helps you chase people down. Nothing else is really that important besides the rocket out smokescreen, but I think that most people, I usually use rocket out when I'm either getting pulled or I'm getting jumped to, and usually the people that do that have a cooldown for that ability. So once they jump to me and I rocket out, they can't jump to me again for 15 seconds, so I don't think this is as helpful. Alright, next, just some important abilities and things you should know. We know that with the supercharge, our alacrity increases, but it's not just magical. We have to actually attack, and then you'll be able to see it increase incrementally. So let's just hit it right now. With gun, you can see that's where our alacrity is right now. It's at 4. And so then now finally with using our tracer missile, it's at 6, where the total it can be. So you just want to make sure that you're reaping the full benefits of your supercharged gas. The second one is chaff flare. You want to make sure you're using these. These will be. This has the potential because it's absorbs a force or tech. This could absorb a 15k hit from a jug. So, or even a power tech's some of their bursts. This is very useful. So we want to make sure there. Concussion missile I think is underused. Especially coupled with the power surge. If you guys want to keybind that somewhere easily, but I know that just basically if you can find some way to do that very quickly with the power surge concussion missile, it's easy to get someone off your back. And for even without the power surge, this is very helpful in 4v4s when you see a ranged class attacking you, so then you can quickly stun them and move on and attack the healer or whatever you need to do. Alright, the next segment of this video is the rotation. And so just quickly going back to the points that we went over in our discipline, we want our tracer missile early and we want our priming shot early because those put our debuffs on the target. We cast our blazing bolts unprocced for the only time in our opener because then we reset it and reproc it with barrage by our first tracer missile. I like supercharged gas toward the beginning right before my heat seekers for the bigger burst, and because this gives an alacrity bonus, the 2 times we're putting our tracer missiles that has a shorter cast time. And then I know some people like their heat seekers and rail shots toward the end of the rotation to get a bigger burst, but I like casting this earlier because sometimes if you don't cast it earlier, you're not able to cast it at all because you're dead. So so there we go. I'll try to run through really quick. And here we go. First with the priming, unproc blazing bolts, tracer missiles, supercharged heat seekers, blazing bolts, 2 tracer missiles, 1.3 seconds instead of 1.4. Nice rail shot. Again with the blazing bolts, priming shots coming off cooldown. Go into a tracer missile, and then we're at our rotation again. So this is a pretty standard opener. I think this gives a pretty good amount of burst for the time and it's given. If you want to see a longer rotation, just check out some of my other videos, and that should be able to help you. If you want to give your rotation an even bigger burst, what you can do is you can proc your barrage early when you're running up to the fight with sweeping blasters. So when you're running up to the fight, hit your sweeping blasters, you can see the proc, and then wait a couple seconds, run into the fight, and then go for your rotation. That way your first blazing bolts is proc, and then also your second blazing bolts is proc, so this doesn't interrupt your rotation at all, and it does make your opener a little bit stronger. 2 more quick things to add is my warnings against using your fusion missile. I really dislike this move. I know a lot of people say that it's the added dot and it can draw people out of stealth, but for damage wise, this is just not very useful. Look at that. Not even 2,000 versus 1 tracer missile cast at the same time. More damage, like almost twice, 3 times as many damage. Builds power barrier, builds tracer lock, procs barrage, does all of that. But then for your argument against the stealthers, just throw out that, and in 1 tick of this, you do more damage than your fusion missile. So again, that's just my thoughts. I see people using their power surge and fusion missile to open up a fight, and I just don't see that as a good opener. But that's just me. Second thing is talking about your rapid scan. A lot of times we're, of course, squishy mercs were targeted, and so we need to get out of it. And so the one way, and again, this isn't ideal, but if you really need to heal, but you want to keep up some resemblance of DPS, is casting your rapid scan, but not just at the beginning, where you can get a 7k crit, which is pretty nice. 8k maybe. This thing's helping me along. We'll see if this wears off, and then cast it and see if I can get a not a crit. Yeah, 4k crit. But then if you cast tracer missile, tracer missile, tracer missile. That 4K, maybe 8K turns into a 10K non-crit, or just trying to survive. Yep, look at that, almost 15K. It's available defensive for you, and it's instant, so it can be used on the run. Alright guys, so that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll hope this guide helped you a lot. This is, again, just my thoughts and opinions, but I hope over the past couple years I know kind of what I'm talking about. So, thanks for watching.